I sat down with these 8 tournament-based creators to find out if they all think the same. I said 6 statements and had each of them move a certain distance regarding how much they agree or disagree, and then asked each person why. I do want to clarify that each answer is purely opinionated, and none of the statements are my direct thoughts, but the idea was to make more open statements in order to get mixed answers and truly dwell into different tournament creators' minds. With that being said, I always try my best in tournaments.
Okay, so here's my reasoning for saying strongly agree, even though like my motivation in events is very up and down, is that at the end of the day, I've kind of got to the point where I've realized, oh hey, I'm one of the people that gets bucket loads of viewers because I play well. Therefore, I feel kind of inclined to try and put on a show, and I try my best. I like to usually take the day off as well on the event day because I'll stream the event, so I just have the rest of the day to just train. I guess that's my reasoning. Other than that, like if I didn't have the stakes in terms of like viewership or like if I didn't plan my day, if I planned my day differently, I'd probably say like agree or slash neutral or whatever. But I usually try my best all the time.
I think it just makes the event a lot more fun when everyone's trying their best. Because if everyone's messing around, it just becomes a less serious thing. Obviously, events are meant for fun. The main goal of the event is for fun. I don't want to try hard, but I think it just makes it a lot more fun when everyone's trying their best. Because I just feel like you just get the best outcome that way. I'm always going to try my best because I think it just makes it a lot more fun to play with my team that way.
I am always going to try my best if my teammates really want to win, but I also think of it in like a very entertainment aspect. And if there's another team that I feel deserves a win, I'm not going to throw, but I'm also not going to sweat my face off to win it.
Honestly, I'm not the most strongest event player out there, so I don't really have to worry about having to really carry our team, but I still want to make sure that I'm, like trying my best, keeping up with the team. I also get very discouraged when I do badly in an event, especially like an event like Block Wars where I've performed like decently well as of recently, and I feel like I want to also get better in the events. Now, do I like obviously try to have fun while trying my best? Most definitely, but there are times where like in the middle of the event, if I'm not performing too well, I do notice myself slipping a lot. So if I like am trying my best, I know I'm trying my best, I know that I'm at least like doing what I can for my team, and it's just honestly like it's just something that I feel like I really need to do when I'm in an event. I definitely do see myself trying my best whenever I'm in any sort of event.
I mean, when you say tournaments, it's like people think about mainly probably like Minecraft events like MCC, Mayhem, Block Wars, PB, stuff like that. And then I also think about like speedrun stuff that I do. And I'd say the only tournaments that I like don't 100% try in would be the event scene, but I still pretty much try. Like I'd say like maybe like Block Wars Chaos, I wasn't like fully trying, or like the one weird Tubbo thing I did. And I'm not giving it like my 100% when I'm playing in these events. Like I could have practiced a lot more for the recent MCC I played in and done like a lot more VOD review for Mayhem and stuff compared to like how much I would be practicing or potentially like looking at stuff for speedrunning stuff. I don't know. But yeah, that's why. Like I try to give 100% even if it's not supposed to be like a competitive event really, like MCC and Block Wars and stuff, Mayhem, PB, the ones I play in like primarily for fun, but half of it is like I just want to try my best because I want to see how well I can do, and there's obviously good players in all those events, and half of it is like if I don't try my best, then I'm gonna get my stats out there on like Reddit and people talking about it, and so like I kind of have to try like 90-95%, but that's why I'm not like fully on the right.
I actually have fun doing good in tournaments. Like, of course, sometimes I can have fun without doing good. Like, I don't know, if I get last on, I don't know, MCC or something like this, I still have fun because the games are cool, my teammates are cool. When I get the most amount of fun is because I'm doing good and I'm winning. And yeah, that's what I like. I actually like winning.
So I am naturally quite competitive, so I do always try my best, but I am usually, the reason I'm not going strongly agree is because one of the main things I am there for is just hanging out and having a good time, even though I will also try my best in the games. They're for vibes, also there to win.
So for the most part, I always feel like the way that I've been playing video games my whole life, I'm a very competitive person. So I would say that I'm always trying my best. It doesn't mean that I'm quote unquote try-harding, as people were saying, or sweating, but I'm always going to put in the bare minimum for me to be entertaining, for me to do my best, because I am competitive. As much as I don't like looking at statistics, I come across them and it's intriguing to see how I perform after events compared to other ones. So I would say I'm always trying.
Higher competition tournaments are more enjoyable.
I personally enjoy higher competition tournaments because I'm a really competitive player, or I just tend to enjoy high competition events, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're always more fun. I think game nights and things that are just meant to be, more for fun, I still really enjoy those too. I don't think there's really a difference for me.
So I've heard a lot of arguments, not just from high tier event players or only competitive players, but I've heard that they think high comp events are going to be more enjoyable in general, which I think it could definitely be more enjoyable on the viewer side of it. I don't think it would be more enjoyable overall, which is why I disagree with this. Because obviously there's some viewers who prefer high comp events because they want to see the best event gameplay and they want to see it more often than they are. But there's also viewers who are just looking for vibes and they're just looking for not so much high tier gameplay. Still competition, don't get me wrong, but you can have competition with a lower skilled roster. That's not going to change. And from a player perspective, there's two ways you can do it. You can get 40 of the best Minecraft event players, in which case it's just the craziest thing you've ever seen, but that won't cater to a lot of viewers. Or you just have a normal event roster that has more individually skilled players near the top of skill level. And then what are you going to do about the lower skilled players who may not be comfortable playing in that sort of event, where they feel like they're worse of a player than they were before just because the environment around them has changed? It can be very demoralizing if people are if the viewers are critiquing too much, then that can weigh heavily on a lot of those people as well. So I'm not sure that is the best way to go about it.
Honestly, like I said before, I'm not the strongest player. So sometimes it's really hard for me to keep up with the other really strong players in the event. I'm sure a lot of other event players can agree with me on this, but when an event is a little too sweaty or a little too competitive, it can get very nerve-wracking because you feel like you need to try better. You need to constantly be on your toes versus if it's not as a higher skilled event, because when it's not so much of a higher skilled event and there's not so much at stake, it feels more enjoyable and more relaxed than if I'm for example, Pandora's Box. I absolutely adore and I love that event and I love playing in it. But there are definitely times where wow, this is a very higher skilled, higher competition game compared to, I don't know, a Block Wars, Block Wars is very fun. People do a lot of drinking teams versus PB. It feels like people try a lot harder. So I feel like I gotta be on my A game and I can't really talk to my chat as much as I do when I play in a Block Wars, and I still very much enjoy it, but I definitely find myself enjoying it when I'm on teams that aren't as serious when it comes to the competition. Even though I do really enjoy the idea of winning, I still like to be able to have fun and not be as nervous the entire time.
When competitions and events take only skill-based things for the event in terms of games and in terms of gameplay, it makes it a lot harder for people to enjoy the event, especially for people watching as well. I prefer a mix of fun games, kind of RNG based, and also some skill.
I personally find a lot of enjoyment in vibes, and when an event is overly competitive and the vibes of teamwork or, whatever the event is about, if it just comes down to everyone is just talking about their comms and what's happening, I just feel like there's no entertainment aspect to it. It's just the game. But I know that I am in the minority in this because I also don't really watch sports, and I know people love sports for the competitiveness and stuff. I just don't find enjoyment from people sweating up, down, left, right. I find enjoyment from people having a laugh, making mistakes, and then like figuring it out. And it's just like a comeback season, stuff like that. If everyone's good at the game, it's just a sweat fest.
I feel like above a certain skill level, it's just too hard. I feel pretty good most of the times, but in a tournament where almost everybody is better than you, I think it's not that fun when your goal is actually to win or to get at least a good place, right? For example, in a sky battle type of game, if you get like destroyed and just die at the beginning of each round, it's just not fun. But yeah, it really depends on the skill level of the person, I guess. If I was better, I think I'd say it's better to fight other people that are very good, right? I'm still like not so experienced, I guess. In my case, I have the language barrier. Like I'm not so fluent in English. Some team games are just so hard for me.
If you asked me this about like tournaments that weren't for fun events, I would be like on the strongly agree. And then if you asked me about it for like tournaments that are for fun events, I would be on like strongly disagree, which is why I'm in the middle. It's good to have that mix, right? I have grown to understand why things like MCC and Block Wars and the rest do so well, and I think it's primarily because they put on a great show with the games that they play and the experience for the players, but also like for the viewers interacting with different creators and all that. Like I joined MCC and one of my best speedrunning friends was more excited that Chilled Chaos was playing as opposed to me playing. And so it's like the impact that a lot of the creators in those events can have requires it to be low competition in a way, because there's only so many big popular Minecraft streamers, and like MCC and Block Wars have those covered. So does PB to an extent, in the sense of the big competitive Minecraft players in terms of size. I've enjoyed playing those events a lot more when I can play with people that I don't know. Every event, just have a good time in that sense. And everyone like tries still, which makes it fun. Like I would get very frustrated if people don't want to try to win or like try to play their best. But yeah, those events I think would be a lot less fun if it was like fully sweat comp and you're seeing like, because you'd see like the same 30-40 people in every event. Like there'd be no point in having bad players, so every event would just trend to having the best players, and so every event would be the same thing. But then, like I said, on the other hand, events like Twitch Rivals should try to be as competitive as possible. Like they shouldn't have any variety creators in there. If there's slots for better Minecraft players, things like speedrunning tournaments, I mean, I think we do a good job there with like ranked and with other stuff, like having the best players there. Because like that's why you'd watch those tournaments. But I think you don't watch the traditional Minecraft events for their competitiveness. And I think it's just so split based on the event that you're trying to put on.
I think if you have one-off, it's kind of like the way you have like one-off like non-canon events where you have a large weaker roster for an event. I think the same premise goes for a strong event. I think having multiple strong events in a row is bad, but I think having like a one-off strong event just to please that side of the community is a good thing. Like for example, you got some MCCs like MCC 30 where people consider the roster to be very strong, and a lot of people enjoyed that MCC because of it. And you've got other MCCs like, for example, the recent MCC kickoff where the roster isn't as strong and people enjoy it, where it's like you have that ground between the canon events and also the non-canons to bring in both strong events and weak events. And I think it should still be that way. I like having a mix of everything, really.
Tournaments are where my content performs best.
In my case, I have a Spanish community, so I get better viewership if it's in Spanish, right? For example, in the English events, which I love, I know like MCC, Block Wars, or Mayhem, I actually don't have that many viewership, usually. But for example, in a Spanish MCC, it will do very good. So yeah, usually it doesn't do that good for me. Then in the Spanish tournament, it does, well, I'm actually known for being a competitive player in the Spanish community as well. So when there's like an event in the Spanish community, it works very well. So it's really, for me, depends on the language.
So I'm very new to the event scene. And by very new, I mean last year was the first time I actually started playing in events more actively. And so my viewership doesn't really come from being able to stream with events. I've definitely noticed recently like a little bit of a higher viewership, but I think my chat always strives off of being able to talk to me and bounce off of me and have conversations. But obviously when it comes to events, I don't find myself being able to talk to my chat as much, even though I do notice a lot of lurkers and a lot of people being very excited about watching. And I noticed that starting to grow the more I play in events and the more I get my name out there. But I definitely don't think my content does very well when it comes to events as much as I would like it to. And I'm hoping definitely for that to change in the future. I definitely hope to garner more of an event audience. But for right now, I would definitely say that it just really depends on the event, depends on my team. Are people enjoying it? Like, it really is just like a 50-50 in the matter versus when I watch maybe like Shane or JoJo playing MCC and their viewership boost to like 10 times their usual viewership. I don't see that happening with mine. Maybe sometime in the future, but right now it stays the same or maybe just is a little bit less than I would like it to be. I would definitely like it to change in the future.
Because I'm not primarily a tournament streamer and I'm not the best players there, so people will not choose to watch my POVs, which is a shame because I do feel like whenever I'm on a team, it does have a good vibe and it does an enjoyable thing to be a part of and, you know, subsequently watch as well. But a lot of people do choose to watch the top placing content creators in events as well, unfortunately. So my content doesn't do as well for them.
I mean, in the last few months, I think I've made a name for myself as an event player. I mean, over the last like year or two, but I think it's just like conductive to how the events work is that if you're a good Minecraft player, it should be your best performing content because the events are set up in a way where if you're a good Minecraft player, you will always do very well because they are just balanced. So it's like you will only ever be playing against like 5 or so other good Minecraft players per event. Like in my case, like I should never drop out of like the top 5 in MCC or Block Wars. Like PB and Mayhem is a different example. I'm washed in Mayhem. Mayhem's my fraud event. That's good content for me because it's sort of designed in a way that I will just do well. And so it's interesting to watch the best players in that event. Like there are a lot of people that do watch those events for their competitiveness, right? Like even though they are primarily for fun events, there are people that just will watch the people that they think are going to do the best, or like competitive POVs, people that they think will get number one individual, whatever. The other reason is that they're so rare. Like I can stream speedrunning 45 hours a week, but I can stream an event 4 hours a month. For when you combine those two factors, I think I would expect like when I'm going to watch this video back that everybody, I don't know all who you invited, but if you invited S tier tournament players, I feel like they would all be on the agree side. And if you invited the lower tier players to the event, I would think they would be all on strongly disagree because you're watching those POVs to watch those streamers like have a good time, interact with new people. Like it's more of a variety experience in a way. Like you're watching it for that person, which is very cool, right? Like you're watching their interactions with other creators. Maybe you're trying to watch them like be a little improvement arc. We've seen a lot of like lower tier players super rise their placements in events over the course of a year or two for a lot of people, but those I think stand out less. You know, like if you're an SMP streamer playing an event, I feel like it doesn't really stand out. Like I was looking at Twitch stats for MCC stuff, just like viewer numbers and stuff, and like Chilled Chaos had the exact same amount of viewers that he would have streaming Jackbox Party Packs or something, because that's just what he does. Like he's just a variety streamer, right? Like his audience isn't going to be more hyped for that. It's just like, oh cool, he's doing another thing with some more friends. Like maybe their community knows Kara because he's played games with them or her before, right? So for those types of creators, I don't think it would be as big of a deal as someone who you're sort of watching for the gameplay experience, and then it's a rare event that like people wake up for if they're on weird time zones or like get excited for over the course of the weeks leading up to it, you know? So, and also you just look at the numbers. I'm like, I would play an MCC every day if I could. If I'm pulling those stream numbers, we'd retire next year if we're rocking MCC numbers all day. But unfortunately we're not. But it makes it more fun when they do happen, so that's why it's good. I like it.
Numbers don't lie. The statistics just show, which streams perform better. And usually partaking in competitions means that I have to stream with other people, and doing collabs on Twitch is just naturally better as well.
It just depends how you grade yourself in terms of performing best. Because I do get the most viewers in tournaments, which obviously is a good factor. But in terms of best content to produce, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think there's some other things that I've made that I might be a little bit more proud of. I guess it does give the best results in that regard, at least.
The best players are going to place the highest, and most people, I'd say about 80% of all the people in the event community are gonna watch people who play well, because one, watching someone good at the game there's science around it. It's serotonin to do with stuff, and people just like watching people do well compared to people doing bad. It's kind of like the same form of if somebody went into a game of PvP and they won, they'd feel happier than if they'd lost. It's the same premise. So therefore my content just will naturally perform better when I'm playing at events, because people will be like, oh my god, that's Samuel playing at events. I'm gonna watch him play this event. Even though I don't watch his streams all the time, his normal streams, I'm gonna watch him for this event because he's good at the game.
I believe that most of my viewer base came from me playing events, obviously, because the first couple that I streamed in, I wasn't very known in the community. People weren't aware of my skill level or just who I was in general. But after I started doing well consistently, that's when I really started to pop off viewership and recognition and all of those criteria. So events are definitely the reason I grew up to the position that I am now. Staying at this position is going to be difficult if I move to other areas of Minecraft, because I've tried streaming speed running, just parkour servers, stuff like that, and they don't get the recognition that the events do overall. So I'd say it's definitely the number one contributor.
Minecraft tournaments will still be thriving in 5 years.
I think about my childhood when I came to this idea in my head of when I used to watch Hunger Games tournaments with all my old favorite YouTubers, especially like Ant Venom or like Sky Does Minecraft, like that era. I always think about that and how that was many, many years ago when I was like 10 watching those. And now I am 21 playing in events myself and knowing that it's lasted that many years. I think that they definitely could last. I think there'll probably be a dip in the amount of Minecraft events there are, but I think they'll definitely still strive and definitely change for the better. We see how well MCC has come along and how long it's been running. We're watching Block Wars take a whole new turn and bringing in like outside Minecrafters into the scene. Events like PB and Mayhem, on the come up. I think there's so many events that are coming out and then so many events that are doing really well for themselves that I think that this could be something that lasts for a while. I know I've been seeing a little bit about Minecraft potentially doing some of their own style of tournaments and events hosted by Minecraft, which I think is really cool. I think that'll definitely be something that will help make the event scene last. I definitely think that there's still a future for events, and I still hope that there's going to be a future for events, which is why I'm agreeing.
I've been playing Minecraft events since like more than 10 years already, and I feel like Minecraft is not going down, and I feel like there will always be people like organizing events because it's one of the best type of Minecraft content, in my opinion. Like there's so many games you can do, there's so much variety, I think. So I think it will stay there as a type of content, and I think people enjoy organizing it, and people enjoy watching it, and people enjoy playing it more than anything.
This is weird because I'm like optimistic, but I also got a big mental reality check the other day. I was just talking with some friends or whatever, and I was looking at Twitch stats, and I think Joel Smallish Beans had the like peak MCC viewers for the season 4 kickoff, and it was like 11,000 average or something. And then I was looking at Twitch stats, and like, okay, obviously it's Dream, but like he was averaging 200,000 viewers on Twitch playing an MCC, just a random MCC in 2021. Like, we're never, I don't think, going to get back there. And so in that sense, you'd think that you should just be on strongly disagree. But I'm on agree because I feel like that is just a very unrealistic expectation. It was like so insane back then with the amount of creators. I mean, I guess I'm specifically talking about MCC here, but I'm pretty optimistic. I think the like 4 main events are in a good spot. Block Wars is going to come back soon, hopefully. MCC just came back. And I mean, I guess this is a 5-year like long space for the question, but I think ranked playoffs has been doing good development stuff. I think if Twitch rivals can stick around, I don't think like Noah Pika Clicks is going to go anywhere. And I just primarily think Minecraft is not going to go anywhere. So there's always going to be random event stuff. Like Hoplite as a server didn't exist a year ago, and they've done 2 of those Hoplite live stream events, and those have done really well for them on Streamline. It's just something that no one would have thought like a UHC server could come back in 2024, but they've done pretty well for themselves, all things considered, that community basically being dead. So I mean, Minecraft as a game will just always be around if like gaming is around. I think it's just too big to ever fail. So that's why I think the events will still be there, because there will still be people that are passionate about developing events and making good stuff for people, and still be a lot of players wanting to play in anything. Like for the amount of people that want to play in like MCC or Block Wars or PB, anything like that is just insane. So there'll never be a shortage of players. I don't think there'll be a shortage of event makers, and that people will always want to watch fun creator interactions and stuff. So that's just why I'm a little hesitant on the agree. It was just the earlier reason. Like, I don't know if we'll be able to go like up from the numbers, because we're just never going to be able to get back to the COVID insane spike, insane Minecraft boom that was a couple years ago. But I think that's okay. I think we're in a good spot in the event community where we are now.
So from my perspective, I know that in 5 years, a lot can change. But I also know in 5 years that things that you think would be gone are still around and kicking. For example, I come from a UHC background. That's been going on for 12 years now. I thought it was going to die like 5 years ago, and here we are. On the event side of it, I think they'll still be around, but they're going to be way different than how we're seeing them now. Because for it to go that long and still be popular, it's gonna have to be in a different way than we're used to. It's gonna have to adapt, change, just be completely different.
Honestly, looking at the Minecraft like scope, trends tend to never last more than about 5 years. Like, you had the Hunger Games trend back in like 2013. What's it called? Like the mod showcase, mod showcases that people would do that lasted a few years back in like 2015, 2016, sort of 2014 era. And I kind of just see the Minecraft event community as kind of another one of these. Like, it's one of these big trends. Sure, I think it will still exist within 5 years, but I don't think it will be as high level as it is now in terms of popularity. I think the popularity will fade a bit. Kind of similar to how recently, like 100 days content is not really as popular as it used to be like 2 years ago right now.
Minecraft has like its ups and downs and, lefts and rights. I think 5 years, I don't know, maybe in 6 years it'll be thriving. It definitely dips down a lot. So I can't tell you in regards to its pattern. I think Minecraft is going to stay alive for a very, very long time. And I think it's going to thrive at different points in that time. But I don't know if in 5 years it'll be thriving. Maybe in 6, maybe in 7. I don't know about 5.
The meta with Minecraft is always changing, and while I think that events will continue to be a part of Minecraft and its growth and its community, I don't see it being as huge of a thing in 5 years, because it fully depends on Minecraft's development in terms of what they can do to keep events fresh, as well as creators and communities coming together to make new, fun, interesting events. Because at a certain point, it's all been done. So then it is bottlenecked by what Minecraft release.
I think that a lot of the big hype for tournaments started with MCC, and I just think nothing like that is gonna come back again unless there's somehow a third huge wave of Minecraft. I think Minecraft tournaments can still be doing well. I wouldn't say thriving, especially compared to how they've been in the past. So I just think there's not gonna be as many people wanting to actually watch and not as many people actually wanting to play. I'd love if they still were thriving.
My team placement matters more than my individual placement.
I am competitive and I do take the events not seriously, but I do try my best in them. I don't ever separate myself from my team. I always think of myself as a part of my team, and if one of us is performing well, then we're all performing well, regardless of whether or not our team is placing high or not.
I think I care more about team placement, because when your team does well, it just means everyone on your team is going to have a lot more fun. If our team gets 7th place, but I place first individual, obviously that means, I did well and I had a good time, but maybe that means my teammates didn't enjoy it as much. So I think I'd rather have a higher team placement than a high end of placement. Obviously, I'd rather have both. High team placement means that hopefully my team actually was able to enjoy it more.
I always take pride in getting a team placement at least higher than 5th. I keep making jokes that I'm currently on a 3rd place curse, because a lot of the times whenever I'm playing in an event, my team will always get 3rd place. So just right outside of getting into the final game. I always find myself being more excited about my team placement than my individual placement, unless I find myself performing really well. Like in the most recent Block Wars Rookies, I got 7th place, I believe, overall, which was very, very exciting for me. But I was also just very excited for how well my team did, because we performed so well. We got 3rd place, so we were just right outside of getting, top 2, but we were so close. And whenever my team at least gets really close, where it's like a nail biter when they're announcing which teams are going to be going into the final, I always get so excited. And even though we don't get 2nd place, I'm still very, very happy and very proud of myself, myself. And I don't really think about my placements too much until afterwards. And even if I didn't perform too well, I always go, well, my team did really well. So that's really all that matters. Because as long as my team does well, I think my placement doesn't really matter that much. Because at least I was able to, like, you know, help my team get there and help my team get to that placement. I find myself being a lot more happy, if that makes sense.
I think if a team performs well, generally everyone on that team's individual is going to perform well anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Also, if a team is performing better, it's way more likely that morale and just happiness on the team is going to be higher, so therefore everyone's going to be having a more fun time, kind of similar to the theory that I stated previously, where if you play well, you're going to be happier compared to if you play worse, you're not going to be as happy. Same theory goes. But yeah, honestly, team placement kind of carries individual placement for the most part in most events. In most events that don't have like games that will just give you bucket loads of points, like individual games like Ace Race or Checkpoint Champion previously in Mayhem. Yeah, team placement is usually more important, I think.
When I'm looking at my individual performance, I feel like if I were to be super upset about it, it's more of the reception that I got based off of it and not how I actually feel. Because I'm somebody who can be kind of swayed by the people around me, whether it be viewers or other players or whatnot. Whereas most of the time, I actually don't mind my individual performance a lot because I know that whatever placement I get on the podium isn't a one-to-one replica of how I actually felt like I did, but it's easy for people to see that and go, oh, you did worse than normal. And on the team placement side of it, you can have a really good team, amazing vibes, you're doing well in every game, and then you have the 2 games at the end where you do bad, and even though you would have been like top half if it was reverse order or if the games were in just a randomized order from what it actually was, and then you just have this like 7th, 6th place, even last place possibly, just because of the game order, it doesn't mean you had a bad performance. It just means that you got unlucky. If you can get unlucky that badly in events, and it happens, you know, I've played so many events, it happens every once in a while, then I don't really mind if I get those low performances because it's bound to happen eventually.
I'll be the disagree guy. This is just because I get in, I don't know if I like get in my head or like I let the community get in my head, but it's just like if I get a bad individual placement, like bad for me is like not top 2, and then it's like this guy's washed. But I think I do care about my team placement. Obviously, winning the events is cool. Winning MCC to me would mean a lot more than having gotten 3rd on the team, but getting 1st individual. I don't really care that I lost to Shane by 12 coins. Like, does it suck? Sure, but like, I'd much rather have done well with my team. And I guess I've realized more that my player profile in events recently has been like very, very biased towards being very good at the team games compared to everybody else. Like I'm very even or worse at like movement games, or like even or worse at PvP games. The recent Mayhem where our team went from 8th to 1st in 2 games or whatever because of the 2 team games on the last 2 games. Like, and then I mean I didn't do good in MCC bingo, but we won the new Railroad team game, and our team, I think we got 2nd in the new Pandora's Box team game. Like that's definitely where I do best, so maybe I shouldn't be on strongly disagree. I just like snap decided that because I feel like for me specifically there is like so much weight on my individual performance from people watching that I feel like it matters a lot. And the only thing that it does affect in my gameplay sometimes is I will try to last hit kills in events occasionally. That is the only thing that is maybe bad for my gameplay, is in events I will try to get the kill points. But that's just like a good way to play in general, so that's like maybe that's kind of cool. But like I still like play for the team in all the like team PvP games. And I mean I guess like a lot of games and a lot of events are fully individual, which is maybe why I care about it a lot too. Like there's really no team aspect in most movement games and events or some other stuff. Like I don't know, I can't name every game and every event I've played that's like all individual, but you kind of know what I mean, that it just, you kind of have to care about it because there's only so many games that you can care about with your team, and then those team games also affect your individual obviously. But yeah, maybe I shouldn't be strongly disagree. That's just why. Maybe it's a little too far. Maybe I'll be the only one over here.
My team placements, even though for most events, well, it should be the important statistic, right? But I think it's not only about you. It depends very much on your team. And of course, I want to win, so I want my team placement to be first. But when I see the placements, I want to be sure I did good and I contributed to the team. And for me, that means having a high individual placements. If I get last and I played well individually, it's okay. I had a really fun event and that's what matters. And if I get first as a team, that's great. But if I'm first as a team and I did really bad, but I won't be that happy, you know?
Usually before a competition, I talk to my teammates and I ask them, do we care to win or do we mind just playing for fun? More often than not, my teammates say, let's just play for fun. So I don't think team placement matters in my point of view. I also am innately very competitive, which is very contradictory to what I try to do, which is not be competitive. But I will care about my own score. But as long as my team is happy with where we're placed and, you know, everyone is still having good vibes, I'm not going to beat myself up about it, especially if we talked about it before the event.
The tournament scene has become oversaturated.
MCC was so dominant as not the only event, but the only huge event for a very long time, because it was the first event that stayed consistent and had the popularity over years of time. Right now, we're at the point where other events are reaching that level. It's arguable whether to say that they are at the level that MCC is at, or if they've surpassed, or if they're right below it, but I wouldn't say it's oversaturating on the higher end at all. I think this question is probably looking for more of like the lower end events because there are a lot of them, but I don't think that's oversaturated either, because there should and there always will be a place for these less popular content creators and less popular, like even if it's testers of different events or community members, there should always be a place for them to play events and enjoy them, even if they're not quote unquote in the big leagues, for lack of a better term. There should always be events for everybody.
There are a lot of tournaments right now, but I don't think oversaturated is the right word to use for it, because I personally think it's great to get a lot of new tournaments like this, even if a lot of them are lower quality in a sense, just because they haven't had as much time to grow. I think there's been a lot of new cool game concepts and event ideas that I've seen from new events. Even if there are a lot, I just think it's a good thing for the community. I wouldn't really call it oversaturated, especially because a lot of people don't get to play in a lot of these events. A lot of people only get to play in one or two. So I think more events is better because more people get to play rather than just watch.
Because I've played in about, I want to say 5 or 6 different events, and every single one of them have found a way to be individually identified and have their own staple without feeling like they're copying another event. I don't think it's oversaturated. I think maybe to a point it is difficult to come up with new ideas, but people are constantly coming up with new ideas. So it is a little tough to say whether or not it is, but at the moment I don't think it is, no.
Okay, so for me it might be a bit harder because I'm in an other community where there is very little competitive tournaments. Like really the Spanish community is really not competitive compared to the English community, and there's really little tournaments with high skill level. I'm actually really new to the scene. Like I got my first MC scene like a year ago, and then I knew Block Wars, and then I saw there were more like Miami and Pandora's Box. But a year ago I didn't know anything about this. There are so many creators and so many good Minecraft players, so many players who want to play these events, cannot be saturated, because I don't know, if players want to play, if players want to do content and there are viewers that are interested, that then great for everyone, right? In my perspective, well, it's not too much, so it's okay.
I think from my perspective, it's not, because there's only a couple like pretty big speedrunning ones. Like that is very like undersaturated. If anything, there's not really that many independent, like Noah Pika Clicks only does stuff every couple months and gets some good participation there when he does it. And Rivals has had an event that they scheduled for mid-April, and then they pushed it back to what was going to be tomorrow or Monday, I should say. And then they emailed us like 3 days ago saying they were pushing it back to like June or something. So Rivals doesn't do anything anymore. Rivals was maybe oversaturated in like 2021 when you played an event a month with like Minehut servers and Boat Rush and all that, all the COVID boom or whatever. And there's really not that many like hoplite style events or like the only a parkour event or just like random small offshoot things. I think what is very saturated is the classic event formula, like copy paste kind of, where it's just like get 8 or 10 teams, get 8 games, get like a couple PvP games, couple movement games, couple team games, have them play a final game at top 2. And I mean, it works. I get why people copy it, but like, at least from my perspective, the reason why I'm so over and disagree is I just am too big of a creator to get invited to these smaller types of those events. Like, I'm really only mentally aware of like the 4 that I play in. And I think even that is like, there's a lot, because the 4, like, they do have their own like all unique games, but the formula is so similar that I could like see it getting repetitive as the only 4 events that I would like play in, especially because a lot of the rosters are pretty similar. Like, I think MCC is very different. I think Block Wars is starting to become more and more different with the way that they're taking their roster in the event. But PB and Mayhem are very similar. It's like, it's similar in the sense that there are like the same relative amount of people and the same like actual people that I know, and then each event has like 20 to 30 people in it, maybe even more, like half the roster usually, that I've just genuinely never heard of, like people that were in the event like a year or 2 ago that I just don't know. So in my head, they're like very similar events in terms of that sort of interaction, like with new people. But the games are obviously always unique. I mean, events, they obviously have to try their best to not feel like, I mean, what would be an MCC recreation, because that was first in that sort of formula. And the events do a good job. But I think if you like zone in on that area of the community, there's probably like 10 events like that run pretty consistently, maybe even more. So I feel like that's where you could feel it's repetitive, but maybe it's because I'm involved in the speedrunning scene as well, and when we host stuff there, it's pretty unique, but things just don't really feel repetitive to me because of that. And I'm also not playing in like every cycle of every MCC Block Wars PB Mayhem. Like it kind of gets staggered out to the point where it won't get too repetitive. Like, I think if I played in all of them every month and it was like every weekend I was doing one of them, it could get repetitive. But those events take breaks, they bench players, I don't sign up to everything always, so that helps too. So that's why I'm in the disagree camp here.
It's awesome that a lot of different people and organizations are trying to make Minecraft competitions because they're fun. But I think that a lot of those organizations and people who are making these events are including minigames that are too much of the same thing. Like, it's too much PvP, it's too much parkour, it's too much of one thing, when I find what's most fun is puzzles or like team games or working together with other people. And I do think it gets oversaturated in the PvP and the parkour aspect, because how many times can you prove that you're the best at Minecraft parkour and Minecraft PvP? Like, we get it. We know who's good. And it's nice to sprinkle in a little bit of PvP, but I think a lot of the new events that are kind of showing up left and right, it's just too much of one thing. And I think that's why it gets too saturated. But if we bring in more events that, have a little bit more variety to the mini games, then I don't think it would be too saturated.
So I think the problem with Minecraft events right now is obviously MCC has been running for like how long? Nearly 5 years. That's a while. And a lot of other events like Block Wars, Pandora's Box, Mayhem Mania have all taken inspiration from MCC one way or another. Sure, some have probably done a lot of their own stuff, but for the most part, the format that events run in, MCC, MCC birthed that. MCC was the creation of that. And as more and more come around, like I've seen half a dozen more tournaments that I've just seen, like just scrolling Twitter. Like if I scroll Twitter for 5 minutes, I'll immediately see a new tournament, I'll see a team. It'll be like someone in the event community playing in it. And that means that all people in the event community are going to see this player. They're going to be like, oh my God, in this new event, 16th event in this installment. And yes, it definitely does mean that it gets saturated in that sense. But I think that as long these events are at least trying to do unique things with the game concepts, for example, Mayhem has multi-spleef. That's a pretty unique game concept compared to all other spleefs. Like, you've got Rocket Spleef for MCC. You've got like alterations of the Sky Wars concept, stuff like that. As long as new events can do differently enough, then I don't think the format will get oversaturated. The problem is when events will just throw in like a general, like, oh, this is a parkour game, this is parkour, do parkour, and their only reasoning is to just have a parkour game, and the other events have the parkour game. So in that sense, I do think events are getting oversaturated a little.
So this might be a really big hot take, but I've been noticing a lot of events coming out and being very underdeveloped, having a lot of issues with their staff and it not really working out too well. well. And I think we really need to be focusing on, you know, like making these events very, very good. Maybe, you know, getting some tests out there before we actually like put the events out there, just to like, you know, stop from having a not so good event that everyone afterwards is like, yeah, I'm never playing in that event again. Because I could imagine being like an event owner and hearing that and being like, yeah, ouch, like that sucks. So I feel like if people take the time to fully develop an event before actually like, you know, putting it out there, it'll do a lot better. But I'm noticing like all these events popping up and then them not being really like the best, well put together events. And maybe I'm a little biased because I am in pretty decently well developed events, but I just don't find myself joining a lot of these other events that I'm seeing because of thinking like, I'm just going to sit here and compare it to this other event that I'm in that I feel like is performing a lot better. And I just feel like there's not really room at the moment for more events to make their way out there. I think definitely in the future, there will definitely be able to have room for more events. But I think right now with how many there are and how not so well some of them are performing, it's just becoming very oversaturated.